Now here in problem 4, we've got this word problem, and let's see if we can just read it through. It says the sum of two integers. So I'm thinking I got two numbers, two integers, and they add up to 61. All right, now the larger integer is 3 less than. Now there's that less than business, so we know whatever follows less than, that's what comes first. So we're asked to find the two integers. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let x equal, now I've got two integers, and when I read this, as I read it, the larger is given in terms of the smaller. So when I set up my x, I'm usually going to let it be, I got two things here, let it be the last one in the sentence. It doesn't always work, but it most often does. So I'm going to let x equal the smaller integer. Now we've got two things here. We've got two numbers. I've got one of them represented, right? I've got the smaller one represented. Now I need a letter representation for the larger integer. And I'm going to read through the sentence to see how I'm going to note that. So notice what we've got here is that the larger is 3 less than 3 times the smaller. So what comes after than is where you start. 3 times the smaller. Well, 3 times the smaller is x, so there's 3 times the smaller. And then it says that we are 3 less than that. So this is going to be 3 times the smaller and then minus 3. So the larger, right, the larger is 3 times the smaller and then 3 less. And now I know when I add them together, the x, let's get this going here, x plus 3x minus 3, right? There's the first one. There's the second one. We get 61. Let's solve it. X plus 3x is 4x minus 3 is 61. We'll add 3 to both sides. We'll get 4x equals 64. And dividing by 4, we'll get x equals 16. Now, it's a word problem, so what we have to do is we have to take x and follow it all the way back through and see what it is. Okay, so x is the smaller integer, and then we need this one. Now, it's right here, right? So right below it, just write this. So right below, I'm going to write 3x minus 3, right? Makes sense. Here's the x. Here's the x. Right below the x is 3x minus 3, so I'm going to write that here. And 3x minus 3 is 3 times x, but x is 16, right? It's right there, minus 3. So we're going to get 48 minus 3 is 45. So we're going to conclude now that these two integers are 16 and 45. And if you add them together, what do we get? 16 and 45, sure enough, is 61. So I think we've got it. Okay, here in problem number 5, we're given that the length of a rectangle is 5 inches more than 4 times its width. So we've got a picture that we can draw here. As soon as you can draw a picture, I think we should do that. So here's our rectangle. And now I've got a length and a width. So I've got two unknowns, so I need a letter representation for both of them. And as I read through it, the length is given in terms of the width. So the length comes first, the width comes second. I'm going to let x equal the width, right, the one that comes second. So let's try that. I'm going to let x equal the width. I'll maybe make that one the width. And then the length, right, if this is our length, the length is 5 inches more than, there's that more than business, that than business, and when it comes after than, that's where we start. 4 times the width. So 4 times the width is going to be 4x, right? X is the width. 4 times the width, there's 4 times the width, but it's 5 more than that. So we're going to add 5 to this. Now, we know from a fact from geometry, and we remember this, that the perimeter of a rectangle, the perimeter is twice the length plus twice the width. So let's put everything we know into this formula here. The perimeter, we're told, is 70. That's equal to twice the length, which is 4x plus 5, plus twice the width, that's x. So we're going to get 70 equals 8x plus 10 plus 2x. This is going to give us 70 equals, now 8x's and 2x's is 10x plus 10. Let's subtract 10 from both sides, right? We're going to subtract this 10 from both sides. So we'll get 70 minus 10 is 60 equals 10x. And we'll divide by 10, getting x equals 6. So it is a word problem, so we know what we do. We take x and we follow it all the way back to the beginning, see what it is. X is the width here, and here's the length. We need that, and it's right below, right? The way I wrote it, the length is right below the width. So I'm going to write that down here. I'm going to take this length and write it right here. It becomes, there's the 4x plus 5 equals, and I've got the x, it's right here, right above it. So it's 4 times 6 plus 5, 24 plus 5, so we get 29. So let's just summarize what we've got now. We've got the width is 6 inches, and the length is 29 inches.